now, 2:04.07.
And you can see a little bit of concern, a little bit of chatting going on between the two men who've done a great job so far with pacing. Tolesa just trying to chivvy Tuame on, or have they decided to perhaps divide? One go with a faster pace and Tuame stay back with a slower pace behind. I'm not sure who it is asked for Tolesa to go on, because they don't seem to be keen to go with him now that he's done that. But certainly there was some chatting going on amongst the two pacemakers, and a decision being made for one to go on and crack on at the pace that's been requested, and the other to stay with the pack and the pace that they seem to want to run at.
That's a big surge from Tolesa. Goodness me, as Paula said quite rightly, there was a little chit-chat there. And then Tolesa just lengthened his stride and pushed away, almost as like a little experiment for the pack behind to see who would go with him. He's on his own now, 6 or 7 meters clear. And this will sort them out, the chaff from the wheat, so to speak. Who's feeling good here? Segu is looking a little reluctant to go with this, although perhaps they're closing up on him. Hakisi Nimana of Rwanda. He's there in the blue. Segu and Giletta is moving up now. They're gradually almost being tempted, like a carrot, just a few meters up the road, being tempted to go with Tolesa. But it's almost single file now, because this is a significant point. They're coming up towards halfway. They're only, there's 21k, so they're within about 100 meters of halfway. And Tolesa may be here realizing that they need to pick it up a little bit. They were looking for 62 minutes at halfway, Paula. It's within a few seconds of being perfect.
It's not too far off, is it? And I think he did a very, very good job, Tolesa, of realizing that that pace was dropping, that perhaps the second of the pacemakers was not able to work with him on maintaining that tempo for the other athletes. And so he is now knuckling down to that task on his own, and the field are gratefully going with him.
Well, this is where they were having that little chat. Look, glancing across there, Tolesa, one of the allotted pacemakers for the lead group. They were looking for 62 minutes at halfway. And Tuame to the left of picture there, I think, was perhaps saying, I'm not feeling that great, you kick on.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was saying, I'm not able to go with this. You need to push on, I will drop back and try and help the chasing group here. And Tolesa is doing a good job checking in with his watch regularly, and there has been that response from the field behind, but it's certainly been a response led by Segu, who at the front of that single file behind him, trying to get back into the slipstream of the pacemaker. That is what he's supposed to do, is sit in front and be able to take the wind and allow athletes to just concentrate on the heels.
Well, they have gone through halfway. The time there officially 62.06 in this 25th edition of the Dubai Marathon. 62.06, that kilometre through to 21k at 2:58. So it did slow for 10 minutes or so, a 3:01, then a 3 minutes, and then a 2:58, leading up to 21k. And I think Tolesa, that's Ayensa Alemu Tolesa, what a good job he's done. He's taking on the burden of pushing it through this next 5k. And it does get tougher, of course. Past halfway, you're beginning to feel a little bit of fatigue. You know you've got a long way to go, and athletes start reassessing their day at the races. There's the lead pack in the women's field. And it's nice, Paula, that we've got a great race building here too. You know, they're coming towards halfway, and that's quite a big group.
It has. We've lost one, have we? I think there were 7 women in there earlier, and now I make it 6, but doing a good job of working together. There's Lemnem Hailu still in there, Ketema is still there, Dekebo, and I think that's still Desi with the orange arm sleeves on the far side, Fantuworku, and it's now Adugna, so it's Afterwork that we've lost, is it?
Yeah, Ketema is there too, right in the centre of picture. Is this the chasing pack here? Yeah, this is the chase group in the women's field. 2, 4, 6, 8. This is about 8 or 9 strong, this chasing group. They are how far behind the elite group? It'd be great to get a shot from the motorbike cameras to see if we can see where they are in relation to the lead group. We don't know whether they're 30 meters back or 200 meters back at the moment. I don't know if our director can help us with that, to get an idea from this camera of where this chase group is in relation to the lead group in the women's field. But they are still moving well. I mean, I'm sure way below 2:30 this chase group.
Yeah, I would think so. There are a number of experienced runners in there. As you mentioned, Afewerk is towards the back of this group here and working together with the other women.
Here is the... is this the lead group again?
This is the lead group for the women.
Oh,
you can see back down the field, down the road behind, and the lights of the vehicle leading the next group. And yes, that is fairly significant, isn't it, Tim? It's a good couple of 100 meters.
It is, yes. Decabo, the tall figure there to the left of that group. Desi with the red armbands. Decabo, by the way, is the athlete who, as I said, is best of just outside 2:25. She's heading here, if she can maintain this, for a 5-minute personal best. She's having a great day so far. A little bit of break up in the group there as they go to that specialist drink station. Remember, these elite athletes have their own special drinks on those tables every 5K, and they have to practice that in training and get the pickup of the bottles right. But quite often you see a slowing as athletes look for their bottle. Did you used to slow a bit at tables, Paul, or did you practice holding your form and your speed?
I practiced running past the table. There's two skills. You have to practice finding your bottle and picking it up at speed, and then you have to practice drinking from it at speed as well. So I used to do it on my tempo runs when you're actually racing at running at marathon race pace, and practice grabbing hold of that bottle and drinking. A lot of the Japanese athletes actually had a technique of they would have a metal hoop attached to the bottle, so they could slide their arm through that hoop and run on with the bottle. You are allowed to attach to the bottle as well any gels or anything, in fact, that you want to consume, solid-wise or semi-solid, as well as what's in the bottle. It just needs to be attached to it. And now we see a fragmenting as we come out of that drink station. There's been a slight injection of pace at the front. Ketema trying to bridge that gap back to, I think it is the lead duo have got away, and Desi is certainly one of them. There is a Dugna who had a breakout win in Dublin on her debut just in October and struggling to go with that lead group. It is Decabo alongside Desi at the front.
Well, we got the 20k split, 65-52, and it was Decabo, Desi, Werku and Ketema, the four leading lights at that one. Werku, of course, the pre-race favourite, the 26-year-old who was 5th in Berlin in 2:21 in her debut, only running her second ever race here. Decabo there, the tall figure nearest the camera. She's the 2:25 athlete, running her 9th marathon, formerly a very good half marathon athlete. And Halo, here is Halo, looks a little isolated. Is she just behind this group? Dugna is there as well. She's a 2:26 performer. Abisi Dugna Idessa. She won Dublin, actually, the Dublin Marathon back in late October, so only a couple of months back. I wonder if she's freshened up. But there are those kilometre splits in the women's race, as you can see, and again an indication of just what a good job the pacemakers are doing. Truly metronomic. I mean, 16:36, 16:33, 16:21 and 16:23. The interesting trend there, Paul, is that the second 10k is a lot quicker than the first 10k.
Yeah, and that for me is smart racing from these women. It's not getting too carried away in the early stages and gradually winding it up as the race wears on. It's setting this women's race up for substantial personal bests for the women in this pack at the moment, if they can stay with this, and it's running it in a sensible way. We were just watching Lemnem Hailu trying to hold on to the back of that pack, and I think she has succeeded in latching back on after that stretching out at the drink station. There we can see just getting herself back onto the pack. She is the athlete that I talked about, who is essentially making her debut. She made her debut in Berlin, wasn't able to finish in the tough conditions there, probably learned some lessons, went back to the drawing board, is used to racing well here out in the UAE, did run a 68.07 in RAC, and has now got herself back into that lead group and doing the smart thing for a debutante, settling in behind the more experienced marathon racers.
Well, interestingly, the men's 22nd kilometres at 2:52. That equals the fastest split of the race so far. So there was a little bit of an injection of pace there in the men's race. They got a 23k in 67.34. That was a 2:53. So a 2:52 and a 2:53, the last 2 kilometre splits in the men's race. They really have kicked on. There's the women's half marathon time, 69.27. Almost perfect.
Absolutely spot on, and as I was saying, I think it's sensible racing from these women, and you can still see there's a pack of those 6 women in there, very competitive. Some looking around from the lead pacemakers, as there should be, in terms of gauging, is the pace that they're setting down correct? How much appetite is there to keep winding that up gradually, or do these women want it to settle? They will take guidance from the women at the forefront of that pack, so notably from Desi and Decable.
Well, the picture's so much clearer with the daylight. Who'd have thought? The athletes, of course, though, will be so appreciative of the earlier start time and the cooler conditions. Then they're taking full advantages of it today in both the men's and women's races in this 25th edition of the Dubai Marathon. They're building nicely. Just a reminder for you, the men got to halfway in 62.06. The target was 62 minutes, so that is just about perfect. And the women's half marathon time, 69.27 at the front end. Again, almost exactly on 2:19 tempo, and I think they might pick it up a little bit, Paula.
I think they already are. I think when you look at that shot, we get a great view of what it's like to be, what do they say, on the train. You jump on the back of the train, don't you, being led by the pacemaker, and you have the men perhaps feeling the best and the strongest at this moment slotted in behind that pacemaker, and then the others settling into that slipstream. And what you want to try and do, as it's starting to hurt a little bit more in this race, hopefully not too much at this stage, is really focus on the heels of the athlete in front and not expend too much mental energy in kind of moving around the road. Just focus on getting into that slipstream and focusing only on one foot in front of the other. At this stage, it's very simple.
Look at this single file now. They really are shifting through this third quarter of the race, which is a clear indication that the acceleration has gone in to Lesa, the man responsible for it. What a wonderful job he's done as a pacemaker through to halfway and beyond. And he checks his clock and then his watch again there, and always gets his head down and lengthens his stride, increases the tempo. He's thinking on his feet. It's really good to see, and the other athletes will be appreciating this, Paula. You know, it's a great job he's doing, although the burden seems to be all on him now.
It does. He probably does train with a lot of these athletes as well, so he will know what athletes in that pack are capable of. He certainly knows the pace that they've asked for, and as you said, he's doing a very good job. As the lone pacemaker left now, he's trying to encourage someone else to come alongside and perhaps give him a little bit of a break to be able to go a little bit further, or is he going to step aside now once he's got them through? I think he is dropping back. Now he's gotten through that 25-kilometre marker. That marker passed in 73.26 there.
Yeah, 73.26 is the official split, and that was about a 2:55, that 25th kilometre. So he's teasing them along here, trying to make sure they push hard through this third section of the race, the third quarter of the race. At 14:32, those last 5Ks, 14:33 officially. There it is. There are those splits for the 5K splits in this men's marathon. And well, that is really encouraging. It's the quickest of the race so far. They went out in 14:48, then a 14:39. Look at that, getting quicker and quicker through the 15K, 14:35. That 14:51 to 20K is why there were slightly worried faces approaching halfway, and Tolesa took the responsibility, grabbed the bull by the horn, so to speak, and gave it a good shake. And that's the result. Between 21 and 25, or 20 and 25K, he's run 14:33. That is aggressive running. I hope they don't pay for it, because that's quite an acceleration.
It did, and it decimated that lead group, which was a large lead group up to that point. And the last 5 kilometres we have seen it whittle down, and now it is left to Galeta at the front I think he's at the front of this lead pack. He looks around to see who he's got for company. He does have Segu is still there alongside him. I know Haji is still in that lead group, but there aren't as many men for sure. There is the lone Rwandan still in there. Hazikumana. There's that Fantahun at the back, and Melak.
Yes, it has been sorted out by that last 5k. I think it's probably what's reduced them a little bit. Degefa and Dekeba now. Are they in survival mode? Are they comfortable? This is the chasing group. You have to be thinking on your feet. You have to try and manage your race. Germa Degefa making his debut. Dekeba as well, trying to cope with the realization that this lead group are beginning to ease away. And there it is, 5 athletes there. Now, has Tolesa gone? Has the pacemaker gone at this stage? They've gone through 25k. He's done a wonderful job. Gileta up at the front end there. Haji is there as well. I'd say Yasin Haji Hayato, a 30-year-old Ethiopian. Haji to the left of picture in that shot. He's a 2:07 performer. Ran that when he was 5th in Frankfurt last October. It was a personal best for him. He ran 2 marathons. He was 3rd in Rabat last year in 2:09, but it's a notoriously slow course. Paula mentioned that he's a former world junior cross-country champion, coached by Gemedu Dedefo, one of the foremost Ethiopian coaches. He's in what's probably the strongest marathon training group in the world. It includes the Olympic champion from Paris in the marathon, Tamirat Tola, and Cisse Lema, who won the Boston Marathon back in 2024. And I guess training with great athletes and being able to match them day in, day out gives you enormous confidence, Paula. So, you know, when you've got a coach who's got a record of success again and again, and you know the formula is right, it must give you enormous confidence.
Absolutely. You can put that trust in the coach, and Haji will have trained alongside Tamirat Tola and then watched Tola go and run as he did in Doha and established the fastest times so far this year, and he will know what he's capable of in relation to the great Tamirat Tola, who will be a huge inspiration to him as well. But when he's getting close to him in training, a part of him might be thinking, well, I'm in better shape, so I can go out and better that and run a little bit quicker. And he's certainly running with more confidence the more that this race wears on. Just behind him in the yellow vest, that is Jirigna Galeta. He doesn't actually have a marathon time to his time, nor indeed a fast half marathon, but he has run a 63:06 at altitude in Ethiopia, and certainly is another man who perhaps knows from the training coming into this race that he's in shape. And we can see from those splits there's been a little bit of a settling as that pacemaker stepped aside, and now a gathering, and the men look around them to see who is keen to push the pace on, and will that allow this group to grow a little and other men to work their way back onto the back of this lead group.
Well, you really hope, don't you, that because the pacemaker's dropped out, the pace doesn't slacken. But so often we see that is the effect of a pacemaker dropping out. They've done all the work. They take on the burden of holding a nice high tempo. And when they're gone, nobody else wants to take on that role. Haji here, moving really well. Haji Hayato. He's a great track racer too, as we see that beautiful shot. Look at that structure. I mean, it is truly magnificent. The Burj Al Arab easing out into the ocean. It has to be one of the most photographed structures in the Arabian world. I know that the Eiffel Tower in Paris is apparently the most photographed structure in the world. Having been to the Taj Mahal, I think if that was more accessible, it would probably take over that title, because it is the most glorious building I've ever seen, the Taj Mahal. But the Burj Al Arab, is right up there in the top 3 or 4, surely. It's magnificent. Haji working really hard. It checks his watch. He's almost like an unofficial pacemaker here. He's doing all the work through this 3rd quarter. But just like I remember Brendan Foster saying many, many years ago, that in a 10,000 meters, 25 laps of a running track, he'd try and get to 20 laps without really thinking about racing, and then he'd start racing. Maybe in a marathon, Paula, you need to get to what, 30k, 35k before you start thinking about racing?
I think you need to be thinking about your strategy at this point, but yes, actually thinking about what you've got left. You can't really fully gauge that until you are in those stages, so I don't think you want to be taking huge risks at this point. It has to be something that's very calculated, that you know you've done in training, and that's why I talk about being in tune with your body and knowing what it's capable of on a given day. And Haji's trying to do that now. I'm watching Hakizimana, who's lost his number, from the front, just yo-yoing up and down. He's done that a couple of times. He's trying to push on the pace, but then isn't comfortable being out the front. Is he holding his hip a little bit, or just trying to straighten out his vest there? And Melak, further back down, is another debutant out there. He was looking around as if to say, well, somebody take it on, because it feels like it should be faster, but I'm a debutant and I don't want to be doing that at this point.
Well, the last kilometre, 3 minutes, so it had slowed a little bit the last 2 or 3 kilometres. The 26 kilometre, or the 3:06, they get to 27k with a 3-minute split. In fact, we're seeing 2:57 on our computers, but we're seeing 1:19.26 at that point, and that was a 2:57 unofficially. So the pace is still strong, but Hakizimana of Rwanda, the 29-year-old, who is a 2:08 athlete, could be heading for a big personal best here today. He's on schedule for something just outside 2:04 in his 8th marathon start. He, in the light blue there, left of picture, has taken on the burden of kicking on through this 3rd quarter. And there's the pacemakers for this elite women's field. And
we've lost one, haven't we?
We have lost one. Yeah, it should be Dekebu, Desi, Worku, Ketema and Adugna.
Adugna's gone.
Adugna's gone. Is she, or is that her in the background there? There's still
Desi.
5 there. There's Desi at the back.
There's Fantu Worku at the front with Dekebu, who has been right there for most of this race. Lemnem Hailu slotted in just behind them, and it is now long-time leader and Chinalu Desi, who is the woman struggling to go with this at the moment, although that may be a bit of thinning out to ensure they get their drinks bottles through this 25-kilometre mark. 25 kilometres passed in 1:22.13.
Yeah, and turning to the trusty chart, 1:22.13, that equates to 2:18.54, so they are just hovering around 2:19. Here's that U-turn at the southern end of the long section. They're heading north again now, this lead women's pack, for the final time. 1:22 on the clock. They've still got a long way to go. And you can see Desi there, left of picture in the red armbands, trying to get back on terms with this group. They've grabbed their drinks bottles there. She is holding a drinks bottle. She's probably the smallest in this lead group, but Worku looking very comfortable indeed, isn't she, there on the far side. Fantu Worku Taye, to give her her full name, who made her debut in Berlin and ran so well for 5th place with a 2:21 clocking.
Yeah, you can see another picking up of that 5 kilometres. It's sensible running. It's a smart, small pickup each time. And as we focus on Desi, I think her experience is really showing in this race. She made sure that she got her bottle. Ketema taking on a gel at this point as well, but Desi just sacrificed a couple of seconds at that point to be sure that she got her bottle, and has now worked her way back and is running with that for longer. It's good to see Lemnem Hailu learning those lessons of the marathon as well, in doing the same thing, taking on her bottle, taking time to get the gels that are taped to it, the fluid and the fuels into your body at this stage. It is crucial, and you will need that in the closing stages.
Well, Dekebu is the surprise package here. There she is, the tallest of these athletes, nearest the camera. Mulia Dekebu Haile Mariam, the 27-year-old, has never broken 2:25, and indeed that personal best was when she was 2nd in Houston back in 2023, running a 9th marathon here, but having the best day of her life. And look at those splits, 3:12. That is the quickest kilometre of the race for the last 10 or 12 kilometres. You have to go back to 12 kilometres for a 3:11 split. So they have picked it up a little bit after that drink station.
They have, and I would hazard a guess that's what's done the damage to Adugna, who's not been able to stay with that lead group and is now starting to take its toll on Katema, who is working extremely hard to be able to stay with these lead four. And look at the focus on the face of Dekebo, eyes focused on the back of Said, the pacemaker, in front of her, and trying to push on, turn the screw a little bit and whittle this group down.
Well, I wonder what's going through the mind of Dekebo there, the athlete who's right in there, tucked in behind the pacemakers, who's running about 6 minutes quicker than she's ever run before. The tempo she's moving at anyway. And there is Ketema, who is married to Ketema. She's at 2:25 athlete. She is dropping back now in her 7th marathon, the former steeplechaser. 9:35 athlete as a steeplechaser. That's knocking on the door of world class. That was back in 2017 though. But she ran 2 marathons last year. She won Madrid, and then she was 2nd in Buenos Aires. Set a personal best in Madrid, that 2:25, and then 2:28 in Buenos Aires. But she feeling it now, and she's dropping back away from this lead group. What a good job these pacemakers are doing. Now let's have a quick shout out for Said there. That is Suleiman Said Kisi, and on the far side Aman Herpo Tufa. They were both tasked with going out at 68.30 for halfway for this field. Well, they were almost a minute down on that. It was 69.27, but there's only so much the pacemakers can do. They can't force a pace on the women. They can just try and coax it out of them. Absolutely,
and they need to really allow the women to dictate that pace to them. And as we have said, none of the women in this field had a personal best below 2:20 coming into this race. They are operating at this pace now. Hailu is, of course, on her debut as well, and is valiantly trying to hang on as a little bit of daylight opens up from the lead trio. Can she latch onto the back of that group? Because that will make her task much easier from here on in if she's able to do that.
Predicted race time 2:18.50. It's still a really healthy time that is projected for this leading women's group. Interestingly, though, that 26th kilometre was a 3:22 after a really quick 3:12 for 25k, so the pace is yo-yoing a little bit if the kilometre markers are to be trusted. I'm sure these 2 male pacemakers for this women's group are doing a great job. I can't believe they're letting it vary that much. Quite often, as you mentioned, Paula, you get this change of tempo when they get to a drink station. It slows them down a little bit and then they accelerate again. There's a gentleman trying to get involved. That's always a little bit annoying to see.
He's not going to be able to keep up too long, as he's just found out.
He lasted about 20 metres.
He's just found out how impressive a pace these elite men are operating at. And if you try and join in on the other side of the cones, I would advise you will get a real sense of appreciation for the pace and the speed. They make it look very easy and very smooth, but they are working extremely hard. And as I mentioned, that is the debutant Melak settled in behind Sego at the front, Hakuzimana, who's lost his number on the far side of the road.
Sego it is, hugging the curb to left of picture. Berehanu Wendimut Sego, 2nd here last year, having another great run. He was 23 seconds behind the winner last year. Now here is an overly enthusiastic spectator, let's say. I'm not sure if he's chatting with them or he's just trying to see if he can last with them. Perhaps he's been close by watching it on TV and he thinks, I can do that. Well, he couldn't. I think it was proven within about 5 seconds. He couldn't get remotely close to jogging with them. Quite what the point of that was, I'm not sure. Thank goodness there was no security issue there. But Segu it is, leading that men's race. Now, where is Hakizinimana of Rwanda? The leading men at 30k then. There's their split, 1:28.26. So we're into the last 12k now, 1:28.26. And Segu, Melak, Haji, Hakizimana, they are the leading quartet at the moment. 2:57, that 30th kilometre. And it has slowed a little bit since the pacemakers dropped out. We got a 3:06, then a 2:57, 2:58, 3:01, 2:59, 15:01 for that 5 kilometre split. Look, between 25 and 30k, the slowest 5k split of the race, and that's frustrating, but it's so often the norm in these big races when you see that.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing the effect of racing coming in. Once the pacemakers step aside, there is that looking around who is keen to take on the pace, and now it does fall again to the debutant that I was talking about in Melak. He's 26. He has a personal best over the half marathon distance, an impressive one at 59.06. He was 6th last year in RAC and indeed finished 7th at the World Half Marathon Championships, and now feeling strong and obviously feeling that that pace had dropped too much. He didn't like seeing those splits slow, so indicates that his training has gone well in preparation, and he comes into this debut expecting a good performance here and doesn't want to wait around anymore. He's going to keep turning the screw and see if he can break away at this stage in the race and get back closer to that 2:4 pace that they were on earlier.
Yes, Melak with the camera up close there. The predicted race time has just slipped outside 2:04, but that doesn't matter because here in Dubai, as just about every year, we've got a fabulous race building. Haji, who is looking so up for it, tucked in there in the group at the moment. Yasin Haji Hayato, he's a 2:07 performer. He could well be heading here for a personal best by 2 or 3 minutes, as Melak out in front just looks a little bit more aggressive, doesn't he? There's just something about his body language there, the way that he's striding. I think he's upped his tempo. Yeah, look, quite a short pitter-patter stride, but he looks very comfortable indeed. 1 hour 31 on the clock, and Nibret Melak, for my money, looks like he's cruising along here rather beautifully.
And the others have almost allowed him to do that. They haven't, of course, allowed. They've assessed in their body whether they have the means to go with it at this stage. They're trying to encourage each other, taking turns at the lead of that chase group to see if they can get back to Nibret Melak, who is working hard here. He hasn't yet broken that group, but he's certainly trying to. He's given it a good job of gradually winding up pace, turning that screw, asking the questions of people in this group. Fantoon struggling to go with that at this point, and indeed Hazikimana perhaps working hard, seeing as he is the one yo-yoing within that pack. Haji, the strongest of the group, as they try and whittle it down further and work towards Melak, who they can see just tantalizingly ahead up the road.
Nibret Melak, then, the 26-year-old, making his debut, having a wonderful debut. Haji has rallied a little bit. He was 3rd at Rabat last year, and then in Frankfurt came 5th with a personal best in October. But Melak here, he looks absolute mustard, doesn't he, as we say. Won the Lisbon half marathon a couple of years back in 59 minutes. He's run 59 and bits in the Ras Al Khaimah half marathon. He was 6th last year. That, of course, is in just a couple of weeks' time. He's got great road times at the lower distances. He's run for 10k 27:26. He ran a fast half marathon in Larne in Northern Ireland a couple of years back, 59 minutes there. So he's got really good credentials at 10k and a half marathon, and this is such an exciting debut for him, and he's looking fantastic. Little glance over his shoulder there. He looks very fresh. Now, Paula, where are we at? We're at 32 kilometers almost, about 10k to go. You know full well that an awful lot can happen in 10k. That's 6 old English miles, but this race has been ripped apart. The pack was looking a little too comfortable for the last 5k, and Melak has done some real damage here.
Well, there was almost a waiting, wasn't there? And understandable if you're making your debut over the marathon distance. You want to make sure that you have it within you. And I think when you approach that final 10 kilometers, you get a real sense of what you have left in your body, and certainly Melak was confident in pushing on at that point. He got a sense from the other athletes, the fact that it was slowing, the fact that no one was really keen to get to the front, that perhaps if he put his foot down, he would answer that question of who was feeling good at this point, and that question has been answered, and for the moment it is he himself who is feeling the best and is pushing on. But as we said, that is not yet a insurmountable distance back to Haji, who is valiantly chasing behind.
Well, 32k His split for that last kilometre at 2:52. It's really quick. It's the equal quickest of the race, I think, just checking back through the times of the race so far. So that is what's done the damage, and a vicious acceleration. Now, it may not seem to many of you back at home watching on TV whether or that a few seconds difference in a kilometre is very much at all. But believe me, when you're working hard in the latter stages of a marathon and you're redlining, somebody suddenly accelerates by 5 or 6 seconds within a couple of minutes, then it really does make a difference. And here's the rest of them. Fantahun there, who was a late addition to the field, the Ethiopian, struggling to go with this. But Melak here has ripped this pack apart and looks so relaxed to me. He looks like he's just stepped onto the road.
He does, and you get a good indication of what's left energy-wise in the athlete's system when they negotiate difficult points like that final hairpin turn. Now they will be relieved to have negotiated that and know that it is now pretty much straight running. A few turns as they come into this finish area, but otherwise it's straight running, and you could definitely see the fatigue telling. As we watch here, Tafa go round, you can see the fatigue showing as they negotiate that turn. Melak went round it strongly and pushed on out of that, as indeed did the duo chasing behind him in Segu and Hadji, and they are now working together to try and stop that gap from growing any further. I don't think they're making any inroads into closing it.
Well, he's approaching 33 kilometres. That last kilometre is saying, I thought it was a 2:52. I think the caption just came up at the bottom of the screen saying it was a 2:51, which is the quickest kilometre of the race. And the gap is growing all the time back to that pack behind him. Segu looking very strong in second place. Hadji in his slipstream, trying to stay with him. Berahanu Wendemu Segu there is in second place. He's a 2:05 performer. He was second here last year. He and Hadji battling out for the minor places here. I don't want to over-predict it because we've still got about a half an hour of running to come. These two maybe can work together to try and minimise the damage being done, Paula, by Melak out in front. But it must be quite a sort of slap round the face when somebody kicks away like that with about 10k to go and there's nothing you can do. But furthermore, you can also see how good they look.
Yes, that's the other thing, and you can see, I mean, it's stating the obvious, but you see them moving away from you up the road, and you know that you are putting just about everything at this point that you've got left into your body to try and put as much time as you can and try and go with the move that they're making. And you're right, it almost looks as though when they're moving away ahead of you that they are running so much easier than you are. That is deceptive, of course. He is working extremely hard at the front, Melak, but he is having the adverse reaction in terms of he is seeing reward for his hard work, and he is hearing that gap grow if he's not seeing it, because we don't want him to turn around and look behind, but we want him to hear the footfalls and know he's moving ahead. Hakizimana is working extremely hard and not able to go with that, and that gap is growing.
Well, we saw Hakizimana there, the Rwandan. He's struggling on his own, always hard too. And it's kind of ironic that when you're in the most difficult part of the race and you're having a bad patch maybe, or just the fatigue is accumulating, you end up on your own so often. Just when you need bodies around you and a little bit of help, when you're really fatigued, that's when there is no help. And yet here we have Melak, no help for him. But he's racing against the clock now, and the gap behind him is becoming a yawning gap. Look there, left a picture. That's a massive gap. He's got, what, maybe 80 metres lead on the rest of the pack, probably about 15 seconds, and he looks really comfortable too. There is something about the way he's moving. He just looks good. Hadji looks pretty good too. Segu there, a little bit of a grimace. The teeth are showing, and he's working to stay in the slipstream of Hadji. This is second and third, and it does look like here in Dubai, the race that discovers new talent year after year is doing so again today with the debut of Nibret Melak unfolding wonderfully.
Yeah, we're trying to assess how comfortable they are. From their facial expressions, can be tough, can be deceptive, but from their gait and their cadence, it gives a lot more away. And certainly Melak, for my money, looking really strong at this point, as indeed is Dikebo, working hard here to, is she breaking away from the experience of Desi and Worku, or have they just taken the time to take on their fluid and fuel at this point, and will they be able to work themselves back up into this group which is formed here of pacemakers, and I think one of the male athletes who's dropped back and the women have reeled in, and now Decabo benefiting from that and settling into the middle of this group.
Well, that 30k time, 1:38.30, has them on schedule for 2:18.30. Now, if they can wind it up, they might get down towards breaking the 2:18 barrier here today in this women's race, but they are racing each other. The men's race, well, it was a brilliant race until about 10 minutes ago when he started kicking away Melak. He looks like he might have the race in the bag because he's looking so strong. But in this women's race, we have a real contest on our hands. And it's Desi here, one of the pre-race favourites, who is struggling to go with this surge of those out in front. Worku, too, the fastest in the field coming to this in the green there, Paula. She's struggling a bit.
Well, they're both working hard to try and match the pace of Mulia Decabo, who is running so well here. Cannot emphasize, she has a personal best of 2:25.35, and as you said, Tim, she's operating down close to low 2:18 pace, and that is why the two women behind her are struggling to stay with her. They are sticking to the task. They are gradually trying to work themselves back onto the group that has formed around Mulia Decabo, but certainly at the moment she is the athlete who is keen to force the pace and has indeed been for much of this race. Concentration on the face of Fantu Worku, eyes focused on the road and the heels ahead of her.
Well, the race has got quicker and quicker in this women's race. That last 5k through to 30k, 16:18. The one before that was 16:20. The one before that, 16:23. And when you think that they set up pretty cautiously, the opening 5k was 16:36. The next one, 16:33. They really have upped their game in these last 10 kilometres through to 30k quite dramatically in this women's race, and I emphasize the word race because this is a fabulous contest unfolding here now. They've just gone past the 31k marker. Decabo looking strong, looking okay. She is the athlete who is I think heading here for a massive personal best. Could be a 5 or 6 minute personal best, maybe more here as she tucks in behind these two pacemakers who lope along and are doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me about Decabo is that she has taken on far less fluid and fuel than the two women chasing behind her, and I'm wondering if that experience is perhaps going to tell in these closing stages. But at the moment she is very keen to keep that pace pushing on, and the inexperience, if you like, of Melak is certainly the one that's bearing the fruit for him here today. He's pushing on with his knowledge of his training and how good he is feeling, and whittled that group down behind there. No longer can work together. That is Haji, who has got a bit of daylight on Segu in the background.
Well, Haji has rallied, there's no doubt about it. Melak's victory or win is not assured just yet. What have we got on the clock? 1:42. They've got about 23 minutes of running to come. Haji here is sticking to the task admirably. This is brilliant running from the 30-year-old Ethiopian. He's the one who is in such a strong training group. He's got that confidence from training with the Olympic champion from Paris, Tamirat Tola. I've got in my notes here huge potential at marathon and half. His half marathon personal best is only 61:03. And don't forget, they went through halfway here today in 62:06. So Haji, is he going to grab a drink here as he passes those drinks tables? Or is he just going to try and stick to his rhythm? Well, he hasn't picked up a personal drink. Now, that's interesting. Segu, rather. And there's the splits at 35k. Melak 1:42.59. 19 seconds now, that gap. That is becoming an unassailable gap. That's 100 meters.
Yeah, that is. It's impressive. It's impressive that it's growing. It's impressive that he is maintaining the pace. These splits that have come up, that 2:52 followed by a 2:53 to 35 kilometers. So he is consolidating the fastest split of the race that he threw down at 2:51 earlier, maintaining and pushing on even, and that pace and projected finishing time now dropping down close. Can he dip under that 2:04 barrier? I think his primary target coming here would have been to try and come away with a victory here as well as a fast time. Looks like he's wrapping up that victory. You can never say it's completely wrapped up in a marathon. Anything can happen in the closing stages, but for me, he looks strong, and you contrast that to the slight head rolling of Hadji down the road, that 20 seconds or so down the road behind him, who is working hard to consolidate the second place.
Well, doesn't he look fabulous? Small, compact, not a lot of arm movement, lovely, powerful stride and rhythm here. I said earlier he's got a short stride, but actually he's just got a nice relaxed stride, hasn't he? It's not long, it's not short, he's not a pitter-patter type runner. And you get some athletes who take small, fast strides, but he's just moving really well, Melak, to the left of the screen. And Decabo looking really strong. You mentioned, Paul, you're worried that she might not have taken on enough liquids, but she's sticking right in there behind that pacemaker. Now, it's an interesting one, isn't it, when you get pacemakers in women's races in the latter stages that help some athletes, and while others behind are struggling. And I have a bit of an issue with that. I always think that maybe in a women's race, the pacemakers should drop out at 30k and let them race the latter stages. Otherwise, you get that unfairness where some athletes have got a pacemaker and others haven't.
I would agree with that. I'm not sure whether it's a concerted decision. It does look like it, doesn't it? It looks like Herpo, one of the pacemakers, has decided to drop back with Fantuwork, who perhaps is a training partner of hers and has come into the race to pace her, and she now finds herself bested, if you like, by the two athletes in the purple vests ahead of her, Desi and Decabo, and Said, the pacemaker, who has been at the front working hard for most of this race, is continuing to do so. A little look at the watch for Mulia Decabo, who is working hard. They're all, of course, working very hard at this stage. They're getting now into that final 10 kilometres where it is really pouring everything that you've got left into, and now, as you mentioned earlier, starting to think about how you win this race.
Well, Fantuwork, the pre-race favourite at Berlin 5th place a long time ago now. She's got her own pacemaker here, though, Herpa, who is helping her out. He was one of the pacemakers who brought them through, and she has just dropped back by, what, about 10 or 15 metres behind this leading pair, Decabo and Desi. Desi, my notes say here, she could be a real danger if she's ready to step up, because Seville last year was her debut and she won. Then she won in Beijing. She's got 2 marathons under her belt so far, and she's won them both. 2:22.17 in Seville, and I presume another year since she had that was nearly a year ago. She's got a good year's training. So Desi there with the red armbands is confident. She knows how to win. Decabo here, on paper, isn't the same class of athlete, but isn't it lovely when marathons throw up the unexpected? You get somebody who's won her last 2 marathons, is a brilliant young runner, racing against somebody who's a little bit older, been around a bit longer. She's 27, Decabo, the taller of these 2 women, and yet we've got a great matchup.
And we have indeed, and they're working hard. That 32nd kilometre you can see on the screen, 3:12 now. 3:13 is around about 2:17.5 pace. That's why you see the predicted pace dropping down for the women. That's also why we see Fantuwork working as hard as she is doing to try and go with this, because the 2 women ahead of her are being able to lift this pace coming into this final 10 kilometres and do some damage to the field without, it looks like, doing too much damage to themselves, still keeping enough in to be able to race, because neither of these women has this race won yet. This is still a fascinating battle to unfold over the next 8 kilometres or so.
Well, I haven't seen them talking with each other. I haven't seen them talking to the pacemakers. The number 42 there in the background, forgive us, we haven't got his name to go with that number, but he is just a really strong local runner, I think, or at least a late entrant to this race. We've got 40 and 41, 46 and 47, but I haven't got a name for number 42, so apologies for that. But Save, the pacemaker there, doing a great job, as he has done now for almost 2 hours with this pair behind him. They are in single file, so they're working hard to stay with him here, and he's got to judge his effort here, because he's stretching them along here and just trying to hold a steady tempo, I suppose. But they're working hard here.
They are, and I'm kind of with you in at this point. It would be nice to have the pacemakers step aside and see, can the women just race amongst each other, because it's certainly helping at the moment, I think, for for Decabo and for Desi, but certainly helping Decabo a little bit more, just to focus on the heels of the runner in front of her and stick to that pace, rather than if she was leading this women's group, she would have to be pushing on alone, and that's a different thing to do. It's a braver thing to do, and that's what Nibret Melak is doing in the men's race.
Melak checks his watch. 1 hour 49 the clock. He's got about 15 minutes of running to come. The gap behind him has got bigger and bigger over the last 20 minutes or so. It has been a brilliant race so far for Nibret Melak, the 26-year-old, making his debut here, an established half marathon racer. He was in the Ethiopian team at Tokyo in the Olympics back in 2021, but he went out in his 5,000 metre heat. He won the African Championships 10,000 metres back in 2024, where he took a silver in the 5,000. Then he won the All-Africa Games a couple of years ago over 10,000 metres. So he's an established star on the track and at half marathon, and it's all coming to fruition now here. It sounds a little bit like your career, Paula, you know, where you worked so hard for many, many years at the lower distances. Then you hit the marathon with the right timing, and you find your home.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there are some athletes, because you never know until you run the first marathon. You can be told that physiologically you have everything it takes to be a great marathon runner, but until you actually run one, you never know if it will be your home, as you say, and if you will be completely comfortable there. Haji is also moving into a little bit of uncharted territory here. He's valiantly trying to stick to the task and consolidate that second place. Not really any chance of making any inroads on the lead of Melak here. In fact, you can see back down the road behind that gap that was around about 20 seconds has certainly, for my money, grown more, and he is underlining the pace at the front, Nibret Melak, with that 2:57, 2:55. So when he slows slightly, he picks it up again. Very, very focused on the road in front of him. Just not waste any wasted energy. I like his running form. It's an efficient running form.
Well, and you know what's really striking is how fluid he looks compared with Haji. Haji is working well. He's working hard to keep remotely in touch with Melak here, but Melak looks really fluid. He looks quite magnificent with the sun beating onto his arms. The sun hasn't been up that long. Temperature is just about perfect. There's no wind here in Dubai. If you've joined us in the last half hour or so, you're watching this 25th edition of the Dubai Marathon unfold in 2026. Brilliant racing on the roads of this bustling capital of the UAE. And Segu here, he's back in third place, we think. Berehanu Wendimu Segu, to give him his full name, a 2:05 performer. He was second here last year. He's in third place at the moment. Back behind him there in fourth place to the left of picture is John Hakizimana of Rwanda, who is a 2:08 athlete. He might be heading for a personal best here as well. 38 kilometers on the clock, and these guys are in survival mode.
They are, as indeed will most of the marathon runners out here today be once they get to the 38-kilometer marker. It's kind of the point, though, where you know you're going to make the finish. Although the fatigue is really starting to kick in, it is about going to your survival place, whatever the technique is. Whether you're running in the mass races or whether you're running in these elite races, they will have developed techniques to stay in the moment, to stay focused, and to come through these difficult stages by trusting in the training that you've put in, by trusting in the mental techniques that you've got in place, just to be able to maintain that rhythm. And the bounce is still there. If you contrast Melak with Hakizimana, you see there's a little bit more bounce in his stride. He just seems to have a little bit more energy in the lower legs while maintaining that upper body. Well, I can't really talk, but he is maintaining it very, very still, and that's certainly helping him in these closing stages.
He is moving by far the best. He looks fresh. That's what's really striking. When we know he's got great distance, great form at the lower distances, at 5K and 10K, on the 5,000 and 10,000 on the track, and a half marathon. But it's how impressive it is with nearly 2 hours on the clock, how fresh he looks, Melak, there to left of picture. Here to the right of picture, well, we have got a real race unfolding on our hands. There's a new character appeared, 1574. I don't know where he's come from, but maybe he's come through from behind, or they've caught him. But he is a mass runner, effectively. But this is the leading pair in the women's race, Decabo and Desi. having a battle royal. 1 hour 54 on the clock. They've got, what about 20 minutes of running to come, 23 or 24 minutes of running to come. There are their splits. Pretty steady, 3:10. It's picked up a little bit through to 34k. And I suppose for them, Paula, it's helpful to have these male runners around them. And it would be lovely just to see them battle out the last 2 or 3 kilometres, at least on their own.
Absolutely. I mean, I think number 42 will have come off the elite start, and the women actually caught him during this race, whereas the other athlete in there is perhaps a lap behind on this stage. So he started in the mass race, which went off a little bit later, and now unfortunately won't be for him approaching the 35-kilometre marker or having gone through it, as these women have done. And we see Worku, will she find her bottle at this station? Certainly it looks crucial for her at this point, because she needs to try and maintain that, consolidate that third position that she finds herself in. It does look like the winner is going to come from one of these two women at the front. Decabo and Desi locked in battle, as they have been for much of this race. It's interesting, these were the two at the front in the early stages, even through the 10-kilometre point, pushing on the pace, and now they are the two women fighting for the victory here. That pace continues to drop down very, very slightly, and gradually 16:15 for that final kilometre, which is extremely impressive running, and I think they will certainly challenge that 2:18 barrier if they continue like this.
Well, you could argue that it's good when you want to see a fast time in this race, because the pacemakers are dragging a quick time out of those ladies, but maybe it is compromising the racing a little bit that's going on between them. There's that beautiful view looking northwards on this fantastically fast marathon course here in Dubai. The Jumeirah Beach Road stretches away in the distance. To the left of picture, just out of shot, was the Burj Al Arab, and here that leading pair in the women's race. Now, Anne, do I sense a little bit more aggression here from Decabo? She's working hard with her arms, isn't she? The taller of this pair. Desi, with the red armbands, Paula, looks quite a lot smoother.
She does look smoother. She looks around a little bit more. She gauges what's happening around her. She takes her fluid bottles well and holds on to them throughout this race. So I think her experience is showing, but Decabo is certainly having the run of her life to this point, absolutely decimating her personal best, whatever happens from here on in, to go from a 2:25 personal best to smash through the 2:20 barrier and go potentially threatening the 2:18 mark is an extremely impressive run, as we're seeing from Melak.
Melak, the current leader, then 1:57.37. That's the 40k clock. I think he's just gone through the 40k timing, Matt. He's just gone through. We shall see.
Yeah.
Yes, 1:57.35 for Melak at 40k. Unofficially at 2:58, still moving well, taking liquid on board. He's obviously learned from the best, so he's doing everything right. He went early. Some people, Paula, might have thought he went too early when he kicked in. If you're feeling really good, do you go early to go for a fast time? Some people would say, no, it's wise to wait and hold back, don't give it away, because you risk, the earlier you kick away, the more risk you're taking that something might go wrong in the last few kilometres. But he went really early, and it's unfolded perfectly for him so far.
It is, and I would argue that that shows and demonstrates the knowledge that he has from his training, the shape that he's in. He knew he had enough. Contrast his movement now with Haji, who is certainly starting to struggle. He tried to go with it. He's coming into the last kilometre now. He's working extremely hard. I think that last kilometre is for Melak, not for Haji. He's looking back down the road behind. He has a bit of a stitch. He's certainly struggling. Look how smooth now Nibret Melak is pushing on. He had every confidence, and interestingly, he still took that 40-kilometre bottle, if only just to trick his mind. Sometimes just getting a little bit of a sugar hit in your mouth is enough to tell the brain that you have enough energy to get through the final 2 kilometres. And that shot with the sun starting to rise higher in the sky behind him just underlines how smooth and confident he is looking, in no danger of being caught. It is now all about how fast he can run, whereas Haji is struggling.
Yeah, Haji, there's a real sign. His form is going. It has looked a little ropey for a little while now. I mean, he's done well to try and ease away and secure second place for himself, but that glance over his shoulder was really telling. If you see somebody looking over their shoulder, it tells you that they're more concerned about what's going on behind them than they are about catching somebody up the road ahead of them. However, that's what he saw, a really good sight, a lovely big gap behind him there, and Haji Yasin Haji Hayato will be delighted with that, the 30-year-old. He's going really well. By the way, when he ran in Frankfurt back in October and set his personal best of 2:07, I'm hearing it was quite a windy day, so maybe that 2:07 didn't do him justice, and he's heading for a big personal best here today. We think the winning time at 40k, the split for, by the way, for Melak, was equivalent to almost exactly 2:04. If he can just hold it together through the last couple of kilometres here, Melak, and he's still looking strong, Paula, he could go below 2:04.
I think he definitely appears, there we go, 41 kilometres, so just slightly over a kilometre left to run in this race, and for sure he's going to run that sub 3:30 pace, so he is challenging that mark and operating strongly. I don't think he's lost much in terms of how strong he appears to be holding himself together. His cadence, his form, he's maintaining it really, really well, and that is the hardest thing to do over these closing stages of the marathon. You're in the final kilometre, everything in your body is screaming to kind of go in different directions, and you need to be able to maintain your form, maintain your focus, and keep working hard towards that finish line, which seems to be moving further and further away.
Well, this has been a textbook execution of how to run your debut marathon. A great career at 10,000 metres and half marathon. At 26, moves up to the marathon and destroys one of the strongest fields in the world that we'll see this year here in Dubai 2025. Absolutely brilliant from Melak. I don't think his win is in doubt.
No, as we go back to the battle in the women's race, and here there is some doubt as to who will come out the victor in this race. They are locked in battle, very little to choose between them. Their pace has slowed slightly, we see, through that 36th kilometre. Perhaps a little bit of a gathering for the final surge, because in contrast to the men's race, these two women have a race to win yet, and they have to play their cards right. Fantuwerku holding on to that third position and running strongly.
Yeah, Fantuwerku dropped by that leading pair, but she has got a pacemaker there of her own through the figure of Aman Herpotufa. He was one of the pacemakers for that lead group of the women, and in a way this puts my mind at rest a bit, because if she was having to work on her own here and the leading pair are pushing away up the road, when you see that so often in races where women who have been dropped from the main pack or from the lead group in the latter stages don't get any help, at least she has got some help here to help her along. But then again, you know, there'll be 2 or 3 women behind her stretched back down the road who haven't got pacemakers.
Exactly.
So you can make a really strong case for saying from 35k, say, even if as late as that, pacemakers in the women's races should drop out.
And Werku will be aware of the fact that although she isn't still challenging for the win, she is still within a shot of beating her personal best time, and that will be motivating her at the moment. That stands at 2:21.57 in those warm conditions in Berlin.
Melak to write a picture, almost on the home straight now. He can taste victory. He can smell the finish line, so to speak. We are on the, it is on the parade ground of the Dubai Police Academy. He's within the grounds now, 2:03 on the clock. He's coming towards the finish. That's the penultimate turn he makes. He's got a right-hand turn. Sorry, it's the third to last turn. He's got a right-hand turn to make now, and then a left-hand turn into the finishing straight, which is 80 metres long. He looks magnificent. He's staying calm, and he's not sprinting, and look at this. I was on this a couple of days ago, 2:03 on the clock. Is he going to break 2:04? He's got a left-hand turn to make here now. He can see the finish line. Here he comes. The crowd roar him home. This has been a magnificent debut from this young man. He strides towards the line, sprints to break the tape, and breaks the 2:04 barrier as well. That is quite fantastic. The fastest time in the world this year. It's only the 1st of February, but that is going to take some beating, believe me. I reckon that was about 2:03.57, something like that. Now he can lie down, now he can look tired, but every step over the last 2 hours plus, he has looked like royalty. Quite magnificent here in Dubai, and the Ethiopian crowds, hundreds of them spectating here at the finish, are celebrating a magnificent victory there from a new star in the world of marathon racing.
He has found his distance, hasn't he? And well done, Ebcdotstream Melak. In the end, he did go through that 2:04 barrier and actually rattled a little bit the championship record of Getnet Molla back from 2019. That was 2:03.34. So perhaps had he known he was as close to that, could he have found a little bit more in those closing stages? He had the race wrapped up. He had a personal best for sure, seeing as he was making a debut. And now look at this. The battle, very tiring. Haji, now what has happened to Segu, who was in third position? Has he passed Haji?
No, I think this is Haji coming in second place. Haji was in second place, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, but he was visibly tiring.
Well, he's got a gap. Maybe Segu, who's wearing number 2, has got his own problems. There's no sight of him yet, as Yasin Haji Hayato is in the home finishing straight. And here, in fact, is Akizin Mana. I think he's in third place, so has something befallen Berhanu Wendimu Segu, as here comes the man in second place, Yasin Haji Hayato, a 2:07 performer before today, but this I think is going to be a magnificent run for him, and it's going to be a personal best as he crosses the line in second place by almost exactly 2 minutes. A fantastic run from Haji, and that is a run, a really strong run too, from Hakizin Mana of Rwanda. He was a 2:08 performer before today, and he's just come home in about 2:06.02 unofficially, something like that, very, very close to the 2:06 barrier. He has just taken the Rwandan something like 2 hours 15 seconds off his lifetime best. A brilliant run from him has come through for third place. And here is the battle for the minor places as some of the other men come through the Police Academy grounds. Ayana battling away here, and Ayana Gizelo Abeje Hayana, he's a 2:07 performer. He too against Fantahun. Fantahun, the taller of the pair, gets to the line first. I think they're 5th and 6th, but they both run big personal bests. Goodness me, what a day. They have taken advantage of the great pacemaking and the wonderful conditions here. And the 2:07 just clicks by on the clock, and I think we've got 7 or 8 home.
We have, and we've seen some huge personal bests. Molaline Fantahun there has just knocked about 7 minutes off his personal best. That stood at just under 2:12.
That's insane.
Coming into this race, so he has smashed that and committed to the race as well. Contrast that to Ayana, who came through a little bit later. He's taken a minute or so off his personal best. I think we will have perhaps a record for the number of personal bests set here today. We did talk about the fact that conditions were conducive to those good times today, and it's good to see that Ethiopian support squad out in strength as always here in Dubai. Hear them chanting long before the runners approach the finish line and celebrating another Ethiopian victory and a stunning debut from Ebcdotstream Melak.
But that initial fatigue after crossing the line has gone. Here is the form of Ebcdotstream Melak. Ethiopia have done it again. Dubai has done it again. It has unearthed a massive talent in this young man. He's only 26 years old. His debut here today was a stunning victory for him. Former track star, former half marathon star, now the fastest man in the world this year in the marathon. And I wonder where he'll be in a few months' time when more races have clicked through, when the Bostons and Paris and Londons and Rotterdams have come by in April. He might still be at the top of the rankings. And I'll tell you what, he's going to be in demand because there's more in the tank, Paul. I mean, he looked fantastic. He looked like he's got another couple of minutes in the tank.
He did. Haji looked as though he was working extremely hard, but you have to say hats off to him for holding it together as he did, because he was visibly struggling over that last couple of kilometers, extremely tired crossing the line. And a little bit of that is the fact that when you win the race you get a little bit of extra bonus energy, don't you? So no matter how tired you are, it always feels a little bit better to be that first across the line. But Melak did a much better job at holding his form together and really raising the pace gradually that final 10 kilometres and coming out on top.
$80,000 for the winners here today, $40,000 US for second and $20,000 for third. The total prize purse is over $330,000 for the men's and women's races. Same prize money, of course, for the men and women. Big hugs and support here, all being lifted aloft for Libret Melak. This, by far, the biggest win of his career. And this is a man who's won the All-Africa Games 10,000. He's won the African Championships at 10,000 metres. He's been a great half-marathon racer. And now he will be not only celebrated here in Dubai as a great marathon race, but when he gets home, my boy, oh boy, is he going to get a welcome when he gets back to Addis. They have done it again. The Ethiopians have got an ability to churn out great champions on an almost industrial scale. I was in Addis a couple of years back and I saw them at the training tracker in the early hours of the morning. Dozens and dozens of athletes arriving at the track at 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and big packs churning out massive sessions on the training track with their day's work virtually done before 9 a.m.
They put in the work, and as all of the runners will have done here today, whether they're in the mass race or in these elite races, you have to put in the work to get the rewards in marathon racing and to experience the joy of crossing that finish line, no matter how exhausted you are by the time that you get there.
Well, Hakizimana setting a national record for Rwanda, of course, with that third place. You can see more athletes coming home and celebrating, happy with their performances. 2:11 just going up on the clock there as that athlete come home. Trying to see who it is. Is that Matez?
Yes.
Coming through. I mean, we didn't get how many athletes got under 2:10, but it was a lot, and now we can hear from the winner.
This debut marathons ever, and certainly the fastest time this year. How did you feel out there?
የዚህ ዓመት ፈጣኑ ማራቶን የሮጥከው ደግሞ የመጀመሪያ ማራቶን ተሩጦ የተመዘገበ በጣም ፈጣኑ ሰዓት ነው። ምን ተሰማ?
እጅግ በጣም ደስተኛ ነኝ። በቂ ዝግጅት አድርጌ ነበር። ያሰቡትን በማግኘቴ እጅግ በጣም ደስ ብሎኛል።
I am so happy right now. I get what I want. I was prepared for this. I am really happy for this win.
At about 32 kilometers, you put in a very fast kilometer, I think 2:51, something like that, and you broke away, but you carried on with that pace. You must have felt extremely strong.
ከ32ኛው ኪሎ ሜትር በኋላ ነው ፈጥነህ የወጣው። በጣም ፈጣን ሩጫ ነበር ያደረከው። በጣም ጥንካሬ ተሰምቷል ማለት ነው። እንዴት ነበር ውድድሩ?
ከ32 ኪሎ ሜትር በኋላ በጣም ነው የወጣው። ያው የሰራሁትን ትሬኒንግ እንድተገብር ኮች ስለነገረኝ እሱን ያደረጉት እሱን በማድረጌ ነው የተሻለ ሰዓት ሩጫለሁ።
So my coach told me to break out on the 32nd kilometer. That was what I was preparing for. Saying I broke out and I get the win as my coach told me, and I get the win. I'm happy for it.
And Nibret, what is next for you now? Because you've run a good 10,000 meters, you've run a good half marathon, now you've run a good marathon. What do you do next?
ቀጣይ ምን ታስባለህ? ጥሩ 10,000 ሜትር ሮጠሃል። በጣም ፈጣን የሚባል የማራቶን ድል አስመዝግበሃል። ቀጣይስ ምንድነው የምታስበው?
ያው ቀጣይ ከዚህ የተሻለ ሰርቼ ያው ክብረ ወሰን ለማሻሻል ነው የምዘጋጀው። ይሄን እንደማረግም አሰልጣኝ ጋር ጥሩ ትሬኒንግ እየሰራው ነው። ሰብራለሁ ብዬም ተስፋ አደርጋለሁ።
So in the coming years I am preparing myself to break world records. Me and my coach are doing the same thing to register a good time. So my plan is to break world record.
We look forward to that very much. Congratulations.
ይሄንን ደግሞ ወደፊት እንደምታደርገው ተስፋ እናደርጋለን። መልካም እድል።
እኔም አመሰግናለሁ።
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I think he said there he hopes to break the world record in coming years. I love that ambition, and I tell you what, it's not necessarily overly optimistic, Paula, because he looked magnificent this morning, running in the 2:03s.
Yeah.
And another 2 or 3 races under his belt, and there's more to come. But there's racing still going on.
There absolutely is, and we had mentioned a couple of times that it was Anchinalo Desi, who was keeping her powder dry, if you like, was sitting at the back of that pack, not making any moves. But when she has made a move, it has been decisive in this race, and she has eked out lead. Not yet a winning lead, but certainly a lead that appears to be growing over Mulia Dekebo behind her, who is operating in significant personal best territory, her personal best in those 225 range, and she is now operating close to 218 if they have maintained the improvements in pace that they were putting on, or indeed if they steady, they're still around that 218.5. Indeed, there is the 41-kilometre marker passed, so inside the last 1.2 kilometres of this race for Anchinalo Desi.
Yeah, well, we said about 15-20 minutes ago she was looking really good, tucked in behind her main rival, Dekebo, and so it would have seemed to be the case. She has kicked in here with about 10 minutes to go and has eased away from Dekebo, and here is the battle for the minor places, and there's challenges going on for athletes. Is that in fact Dekebo she's catching there? Wow.
No, I think this is a
replay of
what happened. So this is obviously the 40k drinks marker, drinks position table, and Kebo has tried to take on fluids, and it's her body rebelling because she is operating in that territory where every part of your body is rebelling, and that's why you saw the fluids coming back up. She hasn't given up though, she is rallying. Desi took advantage of that weakness there as she was noticeably struggling to push on and eke out this gap. Has that really grown? It appears to be maintaining, and there can be, what, about 500-600 meters of this race left perhaps at this point.
Well, she hasn't got the race won yet. There is chasing going on, but Dekebo here with 2:15 on the clock. Surely it's going to break 2:20. This is going to be a personal best for Desi here, rather, by about 3 minutes, maybe more. It's only her third marathon. She's been a half marathon specialist for the last 3 years. She's run so consistently a half marathon. 3 times she's run in the 67s, 3 times in the 68s, 4 times in the 69s. Fabulously consistent as a half marathon racer. Last year she won Seville, and then she won in Beijing, and this is going to be another win. And Paula, a 100% record of victories after 3 marathons under your belt. That is very rare indeed. And you know, joining the sub 220 club by a big chunk, barring disaster in these next couple of minutes. Again, we're seeing, while it's not her debut, we're seeing Dubai here today discovering another massive talent. And
I think she's underlined her potential moving forward by the manner of her victory as well. She kept it moving in the early stages, was right up the front of that pack, and then settled back, didn't make any big moves until the decisive one, when she was able to take advantage, when she saw weakness in her rival, push on and forge ahead, and is now forging further ahead as she senses that finish line growing ever closer, a little bit more of a spring in her step, and Dekebo sticking well to that task because she's come through that bad patch and handled it really, really well.
Well, last year in the women's race, the Ethiopians filled the places from 1st through to 16th. And yet again today they're going to have the top places on the rostrum, of course. But Anchinalo Desi with Dekebo in the background there, the foreshortening effect is somewhat, it fools you a little bit. The gap is fairly big between these two. I don't think Desi's victory is under threat here, but it is going to be a massive breakthrough for her. She's punched through the 220 barrier, still looking bouncy, still looking strong, as she negotiates these last 2 or 3 turns in the police academy here. And she's got about 100, maybe 200 meters to go. Desi here, still got targets. Will she finish as strongly as did Melak to take that men's title? There is the second place at Dekebo, who is herself heading for a massive personal, but she will knock about 7 minutes off her best. Desi here, and Anchinalo Desi, the 23-year-old, she's still a youngster. She's going to knock about 4 minutes off her lifetime best as she roars towards the finish line here. It's going to be a magnificent win for this young woman. Yet again, her third marathon, her third victory here at the 2026 Dubai Marathon. 2:18:32 unofficially, a massive time, the fastest in the world this year by some 3 minutes or so, overtaking the winning time in Doha of Gezahen, 2:21:14. It's an Ethiopian double once more in Dubai, but Paula, wow, what a day at the races for these relatively new names in the world of marathon racing. Melak, a debutant, wins the men's, and Chinelu Desi, a third consecutive victory for her at the marathon distance. And Worku, I think, coming home goes that for third place. Dekeba, we didn't see coming across the line. The pre-race favourite, Fantu Worku, but she too runs a massive personal best, down around 2:19.10.
Yeah, so that's almost, well, 3 minutes almost that she's taken off her personal best. We did mention that was run in the heat of Tokyo. She had struggled, but she was dropped fairly early on in the closing stages of this race and stuck to her task really, really well, obviously knowing that she was on track still for a strong race and a personal best, and extremely impressive racing from Anchinalu Desi. I think really a lot more to come from this woman when she has the courage to perhaps go out a little bit quicker, because she had a lot left in those closing stages. Race that race to win it rather than searching for a time, I think.
Well, 2:18.31, the unofficial winning time there. She's a former track star. She's a fabulous athlete. Is Desi, half marathon specialist years gone by. Served her apprenticeship at the lower distances, and she said she feels really ready for a good run here today, and indeed she does just that. Having won in Seville last year and Beijing, she racks up another victory. And times, I suppose, Paula, less important than winning. You know, if you look at the purity of the sport, you say, no, win your races, win your events, the times will come. But when you win in a super fast time as well, a massive personal best, it's the full set, isn't it?
It is, and that's why perhaps if you're to choose between the two victories today, Melak's is that tiny bit more impressive, because on his debut he had the bravery to push on from 32 kilometres, to know that he had more left in him, and to go in search of that fast time on his debut does indicate he has more to come in the future. But as I said, very wise racing from Anchinalu Desi, who did what she needed to do to come away with the victory, and was rewarded with a big personal best too.
Well, it does prove that when conditions are perfect, the athletes will deliver. Race director Peter Connaughton has got to be incredibly happy with his two winners today. The fast times to many men getting a long way under 2:10. Several women, I lost count, I don't know how many, but at least 3, I think, getting under 2:20 in the women's race, and that is still a very significant barrier in the world of women's marathon running, even though the world record now is supposed to be below 2:10, but of course Negetic getting busted after that time in Boston back in 2024. Here is Desi's winning form. Kip Kemboy there having a tough day at the races, being beaten by the women's winner. Focused, absolutely focused all the way to the line. Never run any track, but we know she's got good speed, a really good 10k in Valencia a couple of years back. And keeping very, how should we say, controlled there, keeping the emotions.
Yeah, I think they came out in the closing strides as she crossed the line, but maintaining that focus and also looking very, very composed down that home straight, almost reminiscent of, I know it was Worku who's spoken about her idol, Doratu Tulu, but she would stay extremely relaxed and composed, even when she was really struggling inside, and Desi was able to do that, giving nothing away to her rivals.
Well, her time, 2:18.31, about 4 seconds slower than the winning time of Bedatu Herpa last year. It's the 5th consecutive win by an Ethiopian. The last time a non-Ethiopian won the women's race was Ruth Chepngetich back in 2019 when she ran 2:17.08. But Desi here, they were going to try and have a word with her if she's got the energy. She's tiny, isn't she?
Congratulations.
5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Anchinalu, congratulations. You must have felt very good towards the end of the race, because it was a very close race until the last few kilometers. What made you feel you could win?
እንኳን ደስ አለሽ አንቺናሉ። በመጀመሪያ በጣም ጥሩ ስለራስሽ የተሰማሽ ነበር ማለት ነው። እስከ መጨረሻዎቹ ኪሎሜትሮች ድረስ በጣም በጋራ ሆናችሁ ነበር ስትሮጡ የነበረው። አሸናፊ እንደምትሆኚ ምን አይነት ስሜት ተሰማሽ ወደ መጨረሻው አካባቢ?
ወደ መጨረሻው እኔ አሸንፋለሁ ብዬ ተስፋ ነበረኝ። እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን አሸንፌያለሁ በማሸነፌ ደስ ብሎኛል
So during the last race of the race, the last part of the race, I was feeling confident. I was feeling I can win this race. I am so happy that I won this race. Thanks to God, I won this race. I'm happy for it.
And what is next for you? Are you looking forward to your next competition? That must have given you a lot of confidence.
ቀጣይስ ምን ታስቢያለሽ? ይሄ ውጤት መቼም በራስ መተማመንሽን ጨምሮታል። ምንድነው የምታስቢው ወደፊት?
ወደፊት ሜጀር ማራቶኖችን እንዳሸንፍ ከእግዚአብሔር ጋር እየሰራሁ አሸንፋለሁ ብዬ ተስፋ አደርጋለሁ
So in the future I want to do major marathon runs. I want to win the major marathon runs. If God's willing, that's my plan.
And you must be thrilled with a personal best of 4 minutes, I think, in the end. Did you feel as if there is more still to come?
የግል ፈጣን ሰዓትሽን በጣም ነው ማሻሻል የቻልሽው ይሄንን ማድረግ በመቻልሽ ወደፊትስ ከዚህ የበለጠ ከዚህ የተሻለ ነገር ማድረግ እንደምትችይ ይሰማሻል አሁን
ይሰማኛል ፈጣን ሰዓቴ ይሄ ነው እርግጥ አሁን ሶስተኛ ማራቶን ይሄ ነው ሶስቱም አንደኛ ዊነር ነኝ በዚህ ደስተኛ ነኝ
Yeah, I'm feeling I can do a bit more. This is my third run. All of my runs, I have won all of my 3 marathons. So I'm feeling confident and I can do more.
An Ethiopian women's marathon running is looking very strong at the moment. There were 3 of you quite close together. Are you excited about the future?
የኢትዮጵያ ሴት ማራቶን አትሌቶች በጣም ጥሩ የተሰማችሁ እንደሚሆን ተስፋ አደርጋለሁ ምክንያቱም በመጨረሻ 3 የወጣችሁት በጋራ ናችሁ ወደፊት ለኢትዮጵያ ሴት ማራቶን ጥሩ ነገር እየመጣ እንደሆነ ይሰማሻል
ይሰማኛል ማራቶን ላይ ኢትዮጵያ ሁሉም አሸናፊ ነው እና ደስተኛ ነኝ በዚህ
Yeah, I'm feeling confident that Ethiopian marathon runners are all winners. So I am feeling confident, I'm feeling good about the future, about the prospect.
A big congratulations. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant there, yeah, lovely smile when she realises the interview is over. I think it was a bigger smile than when she crossed the line. But she's got to get used to being interviewed because she keeps winning. This is Werku, the pre-race favourite. Now, did she finish in 3rd place, I think, Werku? She's working hard. But again, a massive personal best for her. Several women under 2:20 today. And some consolation there. If you're not going to win, then running faster than you've ever run before is quite some way of giving yourself consolation.
Definitely, and she stuck to her task, perhaps knowing, I think, that she was as close as she was to that personal best.
Well, the sun is up. There is still no wind. Look at those flags, top right of your picture. It's absolutely a glorious morning here in Dubai. It's still only not even 8:15 local time here. Now we can have a look. There is the result of that women's 25th edition of the Dubai Marathon. What a race it was. The Ethiopians, of course, dominating. And Chinelu Desi, 2:18.31, the best of all of them. Decabo, fabulous too. Werku, 2:19.08. The first 3 going under 2:20. Plenty of personal bests there, I have to say. But Desi, a class apart today. Decabo having stomach problems in the last few hundred metres. And Paula, it's a rather intimidating almost for the rest of the world, isn't it, when you see that strength in depth of the Ethiopians. Confirmation of the win for Melak, 2:04. Well, I'm surprised at that. I thought he got well under 2 hours 4 minutes today, but maybe that is the correct time. Yasin Haji, 2:05.52. Look at that, the first 6 men under 2:07 here today. A national record for John Hakizimana of Rwanda, 2:06.04. A fabulous 3rd place for him. But Melak was a class apart, winning by almost 2 minutes. That is stunning.
It was all done over that final 10 kilometres with that brave attack just around about the 32-kilometre mark.
Nibret Melak, well, I wonder what this year holds for him. He'll be tempted, I'm sure, by offers to do the big races coming up in London and Boston and so on. Maybe he'll wait until the quick races of the autumn period, the Berlins and Amsterdams of this world, where, of course, quick times... quick courses are beckoning like today, but to win by 1 minute 52 seconds on your debut is quite astonishing. That was a rare victory. The quality of the victory. Well, I do hope you enjoyed these elite races half as much as we have. The Ethiopians, of course, and there are tens of thousands of them here in UAE. They come here for the work, for the employment, but they also enjoy themselves. And boy, oh boy, they're enjoying themselves here this morning on the grounds of the Police Academy, the parade ground of the Dubai Police Academy. And there has to be a shout out too for the Dubai Sports Council, who have supported this race so well over the years, celebrating their 20th anniversary. Just recently, their strategic plan to increase participation here in the UAE in sport for the locals as well as the expats, the foreign workers who come in, is an ambitious one. And you have to be ambitious in this world. Dubai itself is an ambitious place, isn't it, Paula? Every year we come back, there are more gleaming towers poking up into the sky. Our hotel, the Seal, is the tallest hotel in the world. It's been a magnificent venue for us these last few days and for these athletes. And I think we're going to see some celebration tonight.
I think we will, I'm sure we will. And just to underline, again, it's a city and a race that has grown so much over the previous years, and I want to wish the very best of luck to everybody still out there taking part, be it in the 10K that's about to get underway, the 4 kilometres, or in the mass marathon. Be inspired by the outstanding performance of this man, Nibrat Melak, and congratulations to him on a stunning debut.
Well, you can only make one debut, so you'd better get it right, and boy oh boy did he get it right today. That unofficial winning time, well, the official winning time is 2 hours and 4 minutes. I could have sworn he went well under 2 hours 4 minutes here today, but clearly the timing system knows best. Melak there, I think, less tired so much as in shock when he crossed the line and was rolling around on the ground there. Here's the women's winner in her form. She had targets even in the last few dozen metres to catch, and she caught Kemboy there, one of the male elites. That's how fast she ran here today. 2:18:31 her winning time. Absolutely brilliant from her. A massive chunk knocked off her lifetime best here today. Something like almost 4 minutes from her personal best. A very, very special day indeed, and her third marathon, a third consecutive victory.
Outstanding racing and more to come, I think, from many of the athletes that we've seen today, and a great start to 2026 for them.
Well, it has been a magnificent day of elite racing. The thousands in the full marathon, in the 10K and the 4K will be out on the roads of Dubai for some hours yet, but there's a lovely shot on which to end our coverage. The Burj Al Arab pushing out into the ocean, quite magnificent, and it pretty much symbolises how special today has been here. Paula, a final thought?
Just thank you to the city of Dubai for welcoming us and for putting on such a great race. As always, hope you've been inspired to perhaps join us next year.
Absolutely, yes. Well, come and race here next year. Why not? It's always in January or at the beginning of February. It's a race that delivers everything, including gorgeous weather. We're going to head back to the hotel now. We might enjoy something rather cold and liquid and sit beside the pool. But I hope your Sunday is a great one as well. From all of us here in Dubai, thank you so much for being with us, and have a fabulous day. And relish the racing that we've enjoyed here in Dubai. Bye-bye.
Bye.
By Vushkovic. Yatta in space, and this time he does control. Yatta! Good save! Down